The hard truth: loneliness is not a weakness. It is not a failure. It is a signal as ancient and primal as hunger or thirst, telling you that something essential is missing. You have been taught to be ashamed of this feeling, to hide it behind busyness, screens, and forced smiles. But that shame is the first lock on the cage. You are not broken because you are lonely. You are human because you feel it. The ache in your chest when you walk into an empty apartment is not a design flaw. It is proof that you are wired for connection, and that wiring is screaming for attention. You can medicate it with endless scrolling, numb it with work, drown it in noise, but the signal will not stop. It grows louder, more desperate until you listen. The real tragedy is not the loneliness itself. It is the story you tell yourself about what it means, that you are unlovable, that you have been left behind, that you are fundamentally different from those who seem to have found their tribe. That story is a liar. Right now, in this moment, you must let go of the belief that your solitude is a permanent verdict. It is a chapter, not the whole book, but turning the page requires you to see the ink for what it is. So I ask you, what is the story you whisper to yourself in the dark? Write it down. Look at it. Because today we start rewriting it from scratch. The pain you're avoiding. You have become a master at running from this ache. You fill every silence with podcasts, every idle moment with a notification check, every weekend with tasks that leave you exhausted but not fulfilled. You tell yourself you are being productive, staying informed, taking care of business. But beneath the surface, you are petrified of what waits in the stillness, the voice that says you are alone because you deserve to be. That voice is not your enemy. It is a frightened child throwing a tantrum to protect you from the risk of reaching out. Every time you dodge a social invitation because it feels easier to stay home, you reinforce the very prison you hate. The brain learns from your choices. When you repeatedly choose isolation over the discomfort of small talk, your neural pathways treat social risk as a threat on par with physical danger. The avoidance becomes automatic, a well-worn groove. And the longer you avoid, the sharper the pain becomes when you do tentatively step out, because your expectation of rejection is now a self-fulfilling prophecy. You walk into a room already bracing for the cold, and that bracing reads on your face, in your posture, in your short answers. People sense it and pull back, not because they dislike you, but because your armor tells them you want to be left alone. This cycle will spin until you interrupt it. You must learn to sit with the discomfort of a quiet room without reaching for a screen. You must let the wave of loneliness crash over you and realize fully that it will not kill you. The only way out is through. Today, set a timer for 10 minutes. Do nothing. No phone, no music, no book. Just you and the ache. Breathe. Observe it like a curious scientist. What happens when you stop running? The root of the silence beneath every lonely heart is a belief that the real you, the messy, uncertain, needy you, would be rejected if fully seen. So you built a mask. You present a polished, agreeable, low-maintenance version of yourself, and then you wonder why the connections feel hollow. You cannot be loved for who you are if you never show who you are. This is the brutal math of intimacy. The mask protects you from short-term rejection but guarantees long-term starvation. Think back to your last dozen conversations. How many times did you honestly share a struggle, an unpopular opinion, a weird passion? Or did you nod along, keep it light, discuss the weather, and leave feeling more empty than before? That emptiness is the tax you pay for playing it safe. Authenticity is terrifying because it hands someone a weapon and trusts them not to use it. Some will misuse it. That is the risk, but a life without that risk is not a life at all. It is a series of polite interactions that never touch the soul. Start small. The next time someone asks how you are, give a real answer, not a dramatic outpouring, just a sliver of truth. I've been better, actually. It's been a tough week. Watch their eyes. Some will flinch. Others will lean in. Those who lean in are your people. The rest were never going to be. Your loneliness is, in part, a mountain of unspoken truths. What truth have you been choking on that you could, with one brave sentence, release today? Your brain on loneliness neuroscience has a stark warning. Chronic loneliness reshapes your brain like a persistent injury. The same region that lights up when you stub your toe, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, also fires when you feel socially excluded. Pain is pain. Your body does not distinguish between a broken bone and a broken heart. It simply screams something is wrong. Over time, prolonged loneliness keeps your brain in a state of high alert, flooding your system with cortisol, the stress hormone. This constant drip of cortisol shrinks the prefrontal cortex, the part of you responsible for rational decision-making and emotional regulation, while enlarging the amygdala, your fear center. The result? You become more reactive, more suspicious of social cues, more likely to interpret a neutral face as a hostile one. Loneliness literally rewires you to push people away, creating a biological undertow that fights against the very connection you crave. It also impacts sleep. The brain, feeling unsafe in its social isolation, refuses to fully power down into restorative deep sleep, leaving you exhausted and even more irritable. This is not a character flaw. It is a physiological state designed by evolution to motivate you to rejoin the group. Your ancestors who felt acute social pain were the ones who survived because they fought to get back to the tribe. You must honor that wiring by understanding that your feelings are not imaginary. They are a bodily emergency signal. So how do you begin to recalibrate? Through small, repeated safety cues. A genuine smile held for a second longer than expected, a warm tone of voice, physical touches like a firm handshake or a pat on the shoulder. These microsignals tell your ancient brain that you are not in exile. You can start by deliberately exposing yourself to these cues. Watch a video of someone speaking kindly, call a family member you trust, or simply stand in a busy coffee shop and feel the hum of human presence. Your brain will begin to downgrade the threat. The science gives you a map. Are you ready to use it? The lie of the highlight reel you scroll through images of laughter, dinner parties, couple vacations, and group hikes, and your brain makes a devastating miscalculation. It assumes everyone else is living in permanent connection while you are the only one on the outside. This is the comparison trap, and it is mathematically dishonest. You are comparing your raw, unedited behind-the-scenes footage, the messy kitchen, the quiet Saturday night, the text thread with no new messages, against everyone else's carefully curated highlight reel. No one posts the silence after the party. No one posts the tense car ride home. No one posts the message they sent that was left on read. You are drowning in a sea of evidence that does not exist. Social media is not a window into reality. It is a performance, and you are the only one in the audience who thinks the play is a documentary. To overcome loneliness, you must break the spell. Limit your daily consumption to a strict window, 30 minutes, then off. And during that 30 minutes, actively curate. Unfollow any account that makes you feel less than, even if it belongs to a friend. The algorithm is not your mentor. It is a profit machine that exploits your insecurities. Replace that scrolling time with creation. Write a thought, take a photo of something real and imperfect, send a voice note to one person instead of broadcasting a story. The shift from passive consumption to active expression reconnects you to your own agency. What would happen if you deleted the apps from your phone for 1 week? Not forever, just 7 days to let your nervous system reset. Try it. The anxiety you feel at the thought is the addiction speaking. Say this out loud. My worth is not measured by invitations. I am whole in my own presence. I release the lie that everyone else belongs, and I do not the first step that terrifies you. You already know what you need to do. There is a name, a number, a message draft you have stared at 100 times and never sent. The reason you haven't pressed send is not lack of opportunity. It is fear of outcome. What if they don't reply? What if they reply with pity? What if the conversation is awkward and confirms your deepest fear that you've lost all social skill? These what-ifs are not protection, they are a jailer. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that connection is more important than the temporary discomfort of a potential no. The action itself, sending the message, making the call, showing up at the event, is a victory regardless of response because you are choosing to stop being a passive victim of your isolation. You are becoming an active architect of your life. Pick one person. Someone low risk, maybe an old friend you drifted from, a cousin you always liked, a former colleague who once made you laugh. Send them something simple and honest. Hey, I was just thinking about you and wanted to say hi. No pressure, but I'd love to catch up sometime if you're open to it. Then let it go. The goal is not to get a yes. The goal is to remind your own heart that you are capable of reaching out. Every time you take this step, you rewire the avoidance circuit. You prove to the frightened child inside that you can survive the silence or the response. The first step is always the hardest because it carries the weight of all the times you didn't take it. Do it now. Before you finish this section, send that message. I'll wait the mirror of self-talk. Listen to the voice in your head right now. Is it kind? Or is it a relentless critic cataloging every reason you are alone? You call yourself awkward, boring, too much, not enough. You replay old conversations and cringe at your perceived mistakes. This is not introspection. It is self-sabotage. The way you speak to yourself in private becomes the lens through which you interpret every social interaction. If you go into a room believing you are fundamentally uninteresting, you will scan for evidence to confirm that belief, and you will find it, because your brain is a confirmation machine. You will miss the dozen micro moments of connection because you were too busy narrating your own inadequacy. To break this, you must become a bouncer at the door of your mind. When a cruel thought enters, no one wants you there. You stop and interrogate it. Is it factually true? Do you have surveillance footage of every mind in that room? Or is it a story you've been telling for years? Replace it not with toxic positivity but with a neutral truth. I have no evidence of that. I am learning to connect, and that takes practice. Catch yourself. When you brush your teeth tonight, look into your own eyes and say, I am on my own side. Say it even if you don't believe it. The words will feel false at first, like a bad script. That's fine. The body learns through repetition. Over time, the internal tyrant loses its throne, not because you defeated it in a shouting match, but because you starved it of your attention. What cruel label have you been calling yourself that you are ready to retire tonight? The body that betrays you loneliness lives in your posture, in the slope of your shoulders, in the way you avoid eye contact. When you feel isolated, your body instinctively contracts to protect your vital organs, a throwback to when social exclusion meant literal death from predators. You fold inward, make yourself small, look down. This posture signals to others, I am closed, I am not a safe person to approach. And it signals to your own brain, I am under threat, flooding your system with more stress hormones. The cycle deepens. To feel differently, you must first move differently. This is not about faking confidence, it's about using your body as a tool to change your neurochemistry. Stand in front of a mirror. Pull your shoulders back, lift your chin until your gaze is level, plant your feet firmly. Hold that position for 2 minutes. It will feel unnatural, like wearing someone else's skin. But inside your body, testosterone begins to rise, cortisol begins to drop. Your brain receives a new signal. We are powerful, we are claiming space, we are safe. This is the science of embodiment. Practice this power stance every morning. Then take it into the world. When you walk down the street, instead of staring at the pavement, lift your eyes and meet the gaze of one stranger. Just one. You don't have to smile or hold it, just a brief acknowledgement of shared humanity. Most will look away, some will offer a tiny nod, and a few will even smile. Each small exchange is a brick in the foundation of reconnection. You are telling your nervous system that the world is not an enemy. Your body is an instrument. Are you using it to play a song of defeat or a song of welcome? The environment you've built, look around the space where you spend most of your time. Is it a fortress that keeps people out or a garden that invites them in? Your home is not just a shelter. It is a physical manifestation of your inner world. Blank walls, no comfortable seating for a guest, dirty dishes piling up, a bedroom that doubles as an office and an entertainment cave. This environment silently whispers, no one is expected here. No one is coming, don't even try. You might think you'll fix it when you feel better, when you have friends over, when you're not so tired. But the truth works the other way. By changing your environment, you change your expectations, and your expectations shape your reality. Start small. Create one corner that says, welcome. A clean surface, a lamp with warm light, a chair that faces another chair instead of a screen. Place a book you love on the table, not as decoration, but as a conversation starter for a future guest you are actively inviting with your intention. Clean your bathroom as if someone important is visiting tomorrow. That someone is the future version of you, and you deserve a space that respects your dignity. Environment also includes the sensory landscape. What sounds fill your hours? If it's always the low hum of a TV you're not watching, switch to music that makes you feel alive, music that people in joyful communities dance to. Let the vibration of rhythm wake up your body. Your space is not just a backdrop, it is a co-author of your life story. What is one small change you can make today to signal to your subconscious that you are ready for human presence? The daily ritual of reconnection. Loneliness is not conquered by grand gestures. It is dismantled by daily discipline. The single most powerful habit you can build is the morning connection ritual. Before you check your phone, before the news of the world floods your brain, take 15 minutes to connect with yourself. Sit in your new clean corner. Breathe deeply 5 times. Place a hand on your chest and say out loud, "I am here. I am with you. You are not abandoned." This is not whimsy. It is a direct intervention into the default mode network of the brain, the system that spirals into rumination when you feel isolated. By turning your attention inward with kindness instead of criticism, you become a safe attachment figure for yourself. After that inner connection, make an outward micro-commitment. Write down one act of social bravery you will take today. A compliment to a barista, a 2-minute call to a relative, a LinkedIn message to a former mentor. The act should be so small it feels almost silly, but that is the point. You are training the muscle, not running a marathon. In the evening, close the day with a 3-sentence journal entry. What connection did I experience today, however tiny? What did I learn about myself? What am I releasing? These bookends of morning connection and evening reflection create a container for your day, a rhythm that reminds your brain that you are actively, deliberately moving toward belonging. Discipline is not punishment. It is the structure that freedom rests upon. Will you start tomorrow morning, not with dread but with this ritual of reclamation? Say this out loud. I am the architect of my connection. Every small, brave act builds the bridge back to belonging. The neuroplasticity of belonging. You are not stuck with the brain you have. The science of neuroplasticity shows that your brain physically rewires itself based on repeated experience throughout your entire life. This is the most hopeful truth in all of psychology. The same neural pathways that solidified into a lonely, threat-scanning network can be pruned and reshaped into a sociable, trust-based network. But it requires consistent, intentional practice. Every time you successfully navigate a brief social interaction with curiosity instead of fear, your brain strengthens the neural circuitry for approach behavior. Myelin, a fatty substance, wraps around those neurons, making the signal faster and more automatic. You are literally laying down the infrastructure for a new social brain, like building a road through a jungle. At first, the path is overgrown and every step is exhausting. You are hacking through vines of doubt. But each repetition clears more of the brush. Eventually, it becomes a highway. This is why the daily microconnection habit is not just a nice idea. It is a biological necessity. You must provide your brain with a steady diet of positive or neutral social feedback to override the old terror circuits. The brain also has specialized neurons called mirror neurons that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that action. This is the neural basis of empathy, and loneliness starves these neurons. To feed them, you can engage in a practice called active witnessing. Watch an interview with someone you admire and consciously mimic their facial expressions of warmth and openness in real time. Feel the muscles in your own face respond. You are reminding your brain that you are capable of connection. It's a rehearsal for the real thing. The brain does not care if the learning is live or observational. The pathways are built either way. Your past does not have to dictate your future because your brain is waiting for you to give it new data. What new data will you give it today? The microconnection experiment theory without action is another form of isolation. You must conduct a real-world experiment called the hello and honest eye contact practice. For the next 7 days, Your assignment is simple. Every day, you will engage in 5 microconnections. A microconnection is an interaction of less than 30 seconds where you acknowledge another human being with full presence. You will look the cashier in the eye and say, "Thank you, I hope you have a good shift," and mean it. You will hold the door for someone and offer a genuine smile. You will ask a neighbor, "How's your day going?" and actually pause to hear the answer. You are not trying to make a best friend. You are trying to prove to your nervous system that you can give and receive small bursts of human warmth without catastrophe. Keep a tiny notebook or a note on your phone. After each interaction, record one word for how it felt: scary, awkward, warm, neutral. At the end of the week, review your data. You will likely find a pattern. The terror was always in the anticipation, not the event. The event itself, even when awkward, was bearable and often left a tiny glow of satisfaction. This evidence will be your weapon against future avoidance. You are building a personal case file that says, "See, you did it and you survived and the world didn't end." Once you have a week of data, level up. Add one slightly longer conversation. Ask a follow-up question. Share one small thing about yourself. "I love that book too. I read it during a tough time last year." This is the art of invitation. You crack open the door to your interior world just an inch. The experiment will rewire your expectations and slowly transform you from an observer of life to a participant. Are you willing to collect the data, or will you let your assumptions remain untested? The rejection rewrite you have been haunted by a ghost, the memory of a past rejection mocking you. Maybe it was a romantic dismissal, a friendship that faded without explanation, a group that didn't include you, a job you didn't get after an interview that felt like a personality trial. That memory has become a lens, coloring every new attempt with the same dread. You must sit down and rewrite that narrative. Write out exactly what happened in that painful moment in excruciating detail. Then, beside each fact, write a new column. What else could be true? They didn't call you back. Could it be that they were overwhelmed with their own crisis, that they were intimidated, that they were simply not your people? The rejection is rarely about your fundamental worth. Often it is about fit, timing, or the other person's limitations. Now write a third column. What did I learn and how did I survive? You did survive. You are here. The rejection did not kill you. It taught you something about resilience, about what you truly want in a connection, about red flags you now see earlier. The past pain is a scar, not an open wound unless you keep picking at it. Rejection is also a filter. Every no redirects you away from a relationship that would have drained you and toward one that could nourish you. In job interviews, the same principle applies. If you feel you must contort who you are to get the offer is a trap. The real question after rejection is not what's wrong with me, but what is right for me that hasn't arrived yet. The act of rewriting robs the ghost of its power by giving you a new narrative. Complete the 3-column exercise for that one stinging memory today. Then burn or delete the original painful script. It's time for a new story. The public speaking of your life. Public speaking is one of the most common fears, and for the lonely, it magnifies the terror of being watched and judged. But every conversation where you feel exposed is a form of public speaking. You are presenting yourself to an audience of one or many. The key is not to eliminate the nerves, but to channel them. That rush of adrenaline is the same chemical surge you feel when excited. Your body cannot tell the difference. Your mind labels it. Before you walk into a room or onto a stage or into a date, reframe the trembling as anticipation, as readiness. Say to yourself, "I am excited to share something." Shift your focus from "how am I performing" to "what can I give?" In a job interview, instead of obsessing over whether they will like you, ask yourself, "What problem can I solve for this team? What can I teach them about the work I love?" This outward focus is an anchor that pulls you out of the whirlpool of self-consciousness. Practice in low-stakes environments. Record yourself answering a common question on video. Watch it back, not to criticize your face but to observe your message. You will find you are more competent than you fear. Then, deliberately put yourself in real but low-risk speaking situations. A toast at a family dinner, a question at a community meeting, a comment in a team stand-up. Each time you train the public speaking muscle. You learn that silence after you speak is not judgment. Often it is processing. You learn that a quivering voice is not a disqualification. It is a sign of courage. The lonely often dream of being perfectly articulate before they try. That day never comes. You become articulate by speaking, stumbling, and speaking again. What small stage is waiting for you this week? Say this out loud. My voice matters. My presence is a gift. I will not stay silent to keep others comfortable. The solitude training there is a profound difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the pain of being alone without choice, a state of deprivation. Solitude is the art of being alone with purpose, a state of richness. You must learn to transform the empty hours from a prison into a sanctuary. This is not about enjoying pain, it's about reclaiming your own company. Start by taking yourself on a date, a real one. Dress with care, not to impress anyone but to honor the occasion of being with yourself. Go to a museum and stand before a painting until you feel something, not looking at your phone. Go to a cafe, order a drink you love, and simply sit and observe the world without the crutch of a screen. Feel the initial squirm of awkwardness and let it pass. On the other side of that squirm is a stillness that has been waiting for you. In that stillness, you will discover that you are actually quite interesting. You have thoughts you have been too distracted to think. You have desires you have been too busy to name. Solitude is where you meet yourself again. Practice a weekly solitude ritual, a long walk without headphones, a meditation session, a trip to a park where you watch the trees and listen to the birds. This trains the brain that being alone does not automatically mean being lonely. You are building an inner reference point of safety. When you have mastered the art of contented solitude, you stop desperate energy from leaking into your social interactions. You are no longer grasping for connection like a drowning person. You are offering it like someone who already has a full well. The paradox is that a strong capacity for solitude is the foundation for healthy relationships. How are you spending time with yourself? As a punishment or as a precious appointment? The conflict within much of your loneliness is not a gap between you and others. It is a war within yourself. There are parts of you you have exiled into the shadows. Your anger, your neediness, your wild ambition, your quiet sensitivity. You fear that if these parts show themselves, they will destroy your chances of being loved. So you silence them, and then you feel hollow. To be fully connected to another, you must first be fully connected to yourself. That means initiating a ceasefire inside. Sit down and write a letter from the exiled part. Let your anger speak on the page without censorship. Let your grief wail. Let your inner child sob about the times they felt left out on the playground. Listen without judgment. This is the ancient practice of self-compassion, and it has robust scientific backing. Treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend lowers cortisol and increases heart rate variability, a marker of emotional resilience. When you integrate these lost parts, you walk into the world as a whole person, and wholeness is magnetic. People are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to grounded authenticity. The internal ceasefire also stops you from projecting your inner critic onto others, assuming they are judging you when it's actually you judging you. The next time you feel the sting of loneliness, ask, which part of me is hurting right now, and what does it need to hear from me? Be the parent to your own soul that you may never have had. What conversation do you need to have with your inner child tonight? The anatomy of a real friend. You may be carrying a flawed definition of friendship, one built on quantity, frequency, or the effortless magic of youth. Adult friendship is different. It is built on consistency, vulnerability, and a rhythm. You don't need 100 acquaintances. You need 1 or 2 people who will show up. To find them, you must understand the mechanics of deep connection. It starts with repeated, unplanned interactions. This is why proximity matters: a class, a volunteering gig, a regular gym time, a parking space. You cannot force intimacy, you can only create the conditions where trust grows. Once you have a context, you escalate with small disclosures. You share something slightly personal and see if they reciprocate. If they do, a bond forms. If they don't, you pull back and try elsewhere. You initiate. You propose a specific plan at a specific time. Would you want to grab coffee this Saturday at 10? Vague, let's hang out sometime, is a non-invitation that protects you from rejection but yields no connection. Learn to invite and accept the possibility of a no. A no is not a verdict on your soul. It's a scheduling conflict or a polite mismatch. A